Hello and welcome back to Raise the Trident. My name is Jake, and we are a couple days now removed from the trade deadline, which is a really big deal for the rest of the season because now we know what the roster is going to look like for the playoff push. And I thought it was a great time. I haven't done one of these in a while. I've done a few of these like State of the Union type things in the past, where I try to get as many creators as I can on at one time and just get their general opinions about a multitude of prompts that I have set up. So I have 6 in total tonight. Some of them are going to obviously be pertinent to the Mariners right now. And then there's a couple more shorter, fun ones that are a bit more general and not necessarily tied to how the team's doing right now. Just so it's not just strictly talking about the same thing over and over again. So with that said, obviously, I'm alone here. I'm not going to be alone. So we're going to introduce the people who are going to be joining me today. Starting out with, this is random, but Jage. Hello, Jage. You can reach him at the Jage page on X and on Substack at Words from the Wharf, which I love. Is like one of my favorite names. I remember when you did the Twitter Spaces, I was like, I love that name so much. How are you doing today, Jage?
Doing good, Jake. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. And next up, we have Jay from Jay's Trident Podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing excellent. And again, thanks for having me on. Good to see you, friend.
Of course. You can find him on YouTube at Jay's Trident Podcast for all your post-game information and then obviously the breaking news stuff as well. Next up, we have Gavin from UpWest Sports. Hello, Gavin. How are you doing today?
It's Friday, and we got a game about to happen, so I'm pumped.
Yep. Of course. Next up, we have T from EastCoastM. How are you doing today?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Doing great, man. It's awesome to have everyone in here. We have a few more to go. Camren, Mariners Trident. You can find him on Twitter. How you doing today, Camren?
Doing well, Jake. It's good to be on with you again. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good time. We're going to talk about a lot of great things. Next, we have Chris Krautchik from the Coach's Son podcast. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing good, man. Great pronunciation. Thanks for having me. Glad to see everybody. But I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And last but certainly not least, we got Patrick from Mariner Muse. How are you doing today, Patrick?
I'm great, Jake. How are you? I'm loving life.
I'm doing great, man. We had a very eventful trade deadline, I would say. Some might want to have been a bit more eventful than it was, but it was great nonetheless. Got a good win last night. As we're recording this, it is 7:05 Pacific Standard Time on the 1st, which means it is the game is about to start. There's game 2 against the Texas Rangers, so that's gonna be occurring while we're talking. So hopefully nothing crazy happens, and we'll be good to go on that front. So to start this out, right now as we're recording this, the Mariners are 58-52. They are 4 games back of the division, as we just learned that the Astros lost to the Boston Red Sox, and they are 1 game up on the wild card 3, just ahead of the Rangers. Of course, they're in the middle of a 4-game homestand against the Rangers, so they have a lot of ground that they could theoretically gain on them. But let's go back to the deadline, which occurred just a couple days ago, ended on the 31st. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we would grade the trade deadline, to go over in a bit of a recap here. Who we sent out, who we took in. The Mariners acquired Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, and Caleb Ferguson. They sent out Tyler Locklear, Brandon Garcia, Hunter Cranton, Ashton Izzy, Juan Burgos, and Jeter Martinez. So interesting deadline to say the least, and I would really love to know what your guys' takes are as far as the grade that you would give the deadline and how they did, and just a general reason why you give that grade. So we're going to start with just what's on the screen, and I guess we'll just go in that order since it like randomly put people where they wanted to be. So Gavin, you can go ahead, and what is your grade for this trade deadline this year?
Trade deadline, a lot to be happy about. I'm going to go with a B plus. May not be everybody's T. Maybe some people have A minus, maybe even less than that. I'm going to go with a B plus because I think they were 1 arm out of the pen away. And I guess if you're really being a stickler, maybe another arm that you can use as a starter. But there's a lot of DFAs happening. There's still opportunity to go out and get other guys. It's a very happy B plus for me. You didn't get rid of any of your top 100 guys, and you didn't need to. I don't think as much ramp up as Gino was getting talked about. I didn't think there was a need to. You had to outbid somebody to give up a top 100 guy or more than that. But I like where they're at. They got good chemistry, it seems like. And my hot take is Gino was more for Naylor than he was for the Mariners. He's going to come in, and it looks like Naylor was super pumped to have him in. So I'm going to go with a B plus, and yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, we'll keep moving left to right. Jage, you are up.
Yeah, actually, Gavin, I think you and I are going to be on the same page here, and I already know that some people aren't going to necessarily agree. But yeah, I think it's a B plus, and honestly, for a lot of the same reasons that Gavin said. I had tweeted out once we had gotten Caleb Ferguson that they were going to do the double dip, because at that point we were still in the mix for Duran, and obviously hearing some reporting from Jude today and it being discussed that there were 2 elite prospects. I think that Patrick, I think you had alluded to that we both kind of have that same vibe, that we're thinking it was probably Durangelo and Harry. That's not confirmed, but it makes sense. And again, Jude kind of echoed the idea that they were willing to do essentially the Castillo level package to be able to land a Ram. So the reason that I'm putting it at a B plus, outside of the fact that I thought that they needed a second arm, is they were willing to pay a Castillo level package for Jarren Duran, or for Yohan Duran. And what confuses me is there were other options that were available that wouldn't have cost a Castillo package, that I'm just confused as to why they did not approach those. I think there were some restrictions. Obviously, Jerry's only traded with 26 teams, has never traded with Colorado. So I think that eliminated some of the options there. I know that they were rumored in scouting them, but again, as I said through the deadline, I'll believe a Rockies trade when I see one, because it hasn't happened. But overall, again, I think it's a happy B plus. It's really hard to be nitpicky about this, but again, when the most unfortunate possible scenario happens yesterday with Trent Thornton blowing out his Achilles in the 9th inning, I mean, you have already learned quickly why you needed that second arm. And I'm sure, Cowher or Saucedo could potentially make a return as well. I mean, those are arms that you have seen provide value to the bullpen in the past. But at the same time, like, that wasn't what it was about. You are going to have to ride Edward Bizardo, who is already going to be at an innings high, Matt Brash coming off the Tommy John, Gabe Spire, who spent a lot of last year hurt as well, and Andres Munoz. And we can all be honest here in saying that Brash and Munoz have also been a little shaky over the last couple of appearances as well. And you're hoping that that's just a rough patch, as opposed to, like, are we starting to see some wear and tear? So selfishly, also B plus, because if they had acquired Lucas Erceg, like I had suggested, I would have gotten 3 out of 4 of the trades to a T, with the exception of some of the players that were traded. So selfishly, I just wanted the second arm because I wanted to have my trade deadline guide be on the money. So
Fair enough. Yep. If I was smart enough to actually put something out there and have it be like even one of them right, I would have been ecstatic. So yeah, good on you at least for getting 2 of them. Moving on to Jay, what do you think about the trade deadline?
I'll go ahead and boost up the grade a little bit. I'll give it an A minus. But kind of not an A for the same reasons Gavin and Jage hit on, essentially. Like, listen, this team probably got the best 2 bats that were traded at the deadline, in Naylor and Gino. So it's hard not to give a massive thumbs up. I even really like the Caleb Ferguson addition. I've talked about this team needs a second lefty. We've seen when they run into these pockets with teams heavy left-handed and they get into extra innings and they've used Spire, they've really kind of struggled to get through those at times. That national series where Snyder got lit up is just ringing in my head. A series like that where, man, Caleb Ferguson pitches there, you probably win the game. And that series. So I think that's huge. But to know they were like this close on Duran, like not even like, oh, they were involved. It sounds like it was going to happen. Then Philly either swooped in, or Minnesota just liked the Philly package better. I don't have that intel or anything, but we were this close. I mean, that to add Gino, Naylor, Duran, Ferguson, I mean, I don't think it gets any more exciting than that. And then that bullpen just becomes insane with Brad. I don't need to name off all the guys. So that brings it down just from that A plus to that A minus. And then again, just echoing what everybody said, that last day, not adding somebody, maybe even like a Willie Castro. I was even kind of interested in like Kiner Falefa. I don't think he got traded. Just someone to kind of maybe boost up the Dylan Moore position a little bit would have been nice. And then not to get one of the arms that was traded. We saw the Twins traded everybody. Even I thought Louis Varland was really interesting, and he goes to Toronto. Just kind of like maybe after missing Duran, we could have called and been like Brock Stewart, Varland, maybe we can get one of those guys, Griffin Jacks. So, bullpens are weird. They're volatile. We saw in 21 the fan base up in arms about Graveman. Then Joe Smith comes in and actually does better than Graveman did in Houston. So you never know over the course of 50 games. They may have just viewed it as, hey, Duran is good. Duran, I always say that wrong. I don't know which one it is, but that's someone that's a true difference maker. Everybody else is just kind of your everyday reliever that can be left up to weird variants. So we're not going to pay the package for it. But A-, great deadline, but you always feel like leave a little meat on the bone. And I feel like maybe they did. It's hard to say with what they added, but kind of the same, I think, area that Gavin and Jage hit on essentially.
Okay. I like the thoughts there. And Patrick, you're going to be up next. What are you thinking?
Yeah. It's an A for me. I'm blown away that they were able to get, like everyone said, the two best hitters that were traded at the deadline. They were able to get both of them, and they didn't really have to give up anything crazy to get either of them. Those deals, both as they happened, where the Suarez deal went way under projected cost, and the Naylor deal happened a week early. Both of those were exceptional trades for them. And it kind of blew me away that they were able to add that much offensive impact at a deadline that did not have the greatest collection of available talent. And I totally understand the not getting the second arm discussion. I guess where I'm at is I think Caleb Ferguson does solve a problem, if not maybe what the main problem was. But I also don't feel super confident as Logan Gilbert absolutely blitzes through the Texas Rangers in the first inning. Let's go. I don't feel super confident that I can say that Caleb Ferguson actually doesn't address the thing that they needed to address. I think I kind of thought a little bit more about it today, and I think he's a really good complement for Gabe Spire because they kind of have opposite skill sets where Ferguson's a contact suppression guy, elite at that, and Spire's elite at strikeouts. So I think it's an interesting kind of a 1-2 punch they have there. I guess the one thing I would just say is if they could have even gotten a cheap right-handed guy, not like a Yohan Duran, I guess that would be like, I feel like that would have potentially enhanced what they have in the bullpen, but I'm not going to quibble with it. They blew me away with what they did on offense. It's an A for me.
Yep. Totally fair enough. Chris, can move on to you. How are you feeling?
I feel great. We need to get the morale up a little bit here. I feel great because going into this, every one of us was tweeting, talking about what are our needs. We need a first baseman. We need a third baseman. First and foremost, yes, we need bullpen. We need arms. First base, third base. Addressed to the T. We got the best players on the market in that regard. Gino coming back to us. Everybody's happy. I don't know if everybody saw the Shannon Dreyer story. He gets on the plane. Everybody's clapping and shit. We are excited as a team from the top all the way down to us just tweeting about them. So hype aside, the lineup just got better, right? My big thing is trade deadline. Did your team get better? We are among the top, 3, maybe 2, maybe 1 team in the league that got better over the trade deadline. Caleb Ferguson added bonus. Great. No matter what, even when you beat a team 8-0 in a baseball game, there is something a manager can go and say, you know what, we could have did this better. You could have had a better at bat. So I think we're, reminiscent of trying to be like, you know what, we could have got that other arm. Do I want more? Yes, I wanted Willie Castro. I wanted Griffin Jacks. I wanted all of these guys. But for as much as we want to shit on Jerry DiPoto on a normal basis, I think that he came through, and I'm a firm believer now it's up to the guys on the field. DiPoto did his job for the most part. Do I wish these guys were on our team since April 1st? Yeah, I do, but they weren't. We have them now, and it's a new season. I wish it started August 1st because we could just be like, hey, August starts the new season, but we got July 31st. We're 1-0. We have 3 games left against the Rangers here. We have another set against the Astros. I wish we had more, but the season is now. Our 1 through 7 is stacked. If Cole Young keeps doing his thing, we're just set up very, very, very much for success. I'd be lying to say I'm not a little concerned about the back end of the bullpen, as everybody alluded to in terms of usage. But other than that, I have no complaints. Naylor seems to fit right in. Gino's already beloved, and Ferguson's going to eat some of those innings that some of these guys need to give up now. And I can't help but be super excited about the rest of the season. And I know that's going to set me up for a big letdown, but I'm here for the ride.
Okay, very nice. I like how you were saying, like, let's pump up the vibes, and you had the most Mariners, like, pessimistic take at the end, but I appreciate it. Camren, is your turn. How do you feel about the trade deadline?
Yeah, for me, it's an A- is what I gave them. When I was thinking about what grade to give them at the end of the deadline, I was not too conflicted about anything from the A's to the B's. It was always going to be in the A's, but whether I was going to give an A- for a lot of the reasons that you guys said. Adding the top 2 bats that were traded at this deadline was just huge and massive, and it plugged 2 of their biggest needs offensively, first base and third base. So that was great right there, but I didn't give it an A or A+ or anything like that because I do have concerns about the bullpen, and for them not to do a single thing on that last day was kind of unfortunate. And like Jage said, how they were like Jerry said, they were really close on Yohan Duran, I think is how you say. They were really close on getting him, and they were going to give up quite a bit. Yeah, we like that pronunciation. But yeah, they were right there and willing to give up a ton for him. And I was huge on him too. I would have loved that trade right there. But they missed out on them, so it's okay because there were so many other relievers that got traded after him. And I was thinking, like, as you saw it get flooded in on deadline day, you were just thinking that one of those guys the Mariners could have matched easily. I mean, Camilo Doval to the Yankees, he went for basically nothing. David Bednar, they didn't give up a huge amount for. Any of the other Twins guys, Brock Stewart, Danny Coulombe, the guy that the Blue Jays traded for, I think, Louis Varlin. Any one of those guys would have helped big time. And I think they could have easily matched that offer, if not beat it. And also unfortunate at that deadline when you were watching the Rangers doing kind of exactly what I wanted the Mariners to do on deadline, adding 2 really solid relievers, Phil Maton and Danny Coulombe. I really wanted them to do one of those things, but they didn't. But regardless, I still think it's an A-. And then something I wanted to say real quick before is that I think I also wanted them to address the rotation a bit. I had a little concerns about the number 5 spot, watching Logan Evans in person the other day in Sacramento, just up. I think he's already surpassed, I think, his career in innings. If not, he's really close to there. So that's a concern for me the rest of the way. I think there's about 10 starts from the number 5 spot the rest of the way. So I have concerns there. He's also struggled the last month. And so that's concerning for me. I think they could have easily added a guy like J.P. Sears, who went to the Padres in that deal, or maybe a Chris Paddock or someone in the back end to just eat innings. And also with Gilbert and Kirby, you have warning track. All right, sorry, distracted. You also have guys like Kirby and Miller and Gilbert who have had to deal with injuries this season. And if one of those guys goes down, you looked at what we were dealing with in April. We had the other Luis Castillo taking starts, and having that happen again in this part of the season would be detrimental. So they have a lot banking on the rotation right there. Bullpen, I wanted to add just one more reliever to help out on the back end, but they didn't do it, unfortunately. But besides that, I love the move of Caleb Ferguson. I do really think that was underrated. I hadn't looked at his stats this year until he got traded in his Savant page, and he gives up no hard contact and another lefty. Like Jay was saying, it was super important to get another lefty in there because now they don't have to risk using Spire in the 6th inning against lefties and then lose them in the 8th. They can have go for the first lefty, and then they can go to Spire in more high leverage spots. So I thought that was a really good under the radar move that they made. But A- for me. Love the offense they added. Love the vibes they brought back. Big fan of Caleb Ferguson. Would have been an A or A+ if they added just one more reliever or a starting pitcher in the back end. But really happy with the deadline overall.
Okay, really like all those points. And East Coast M's, time for you to finish it out.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much what everyone said. I'm going A- as well. I think even though Tom Verducci claims Carlos Correa was the best offensive guy traded at the deadline, I think we all know that's way beyond false. But I think, yeah, you go out and you get 2 guys that really just help extend your lineup. I think, kind of at the end of the day, you have all the ammunition to kind of go out and do really whatever move you wanted, and kind of just waiting and just sitting there that last day and not going and get anything, even anything, you can never be too good in a sense. And just having the guys to go out and be able to get someone else for the back end of the bullpen. But I think A-. I think all of us should be very happy kind of with what they did. And we definitely have a much bigger chance of making a deep playoff run than we did a month ago. So I'm very pleased with it.
Yep. I definitely agree. I made my trade deadline video yesterday. I have to keep to my grade of a B plus, and for the same reason that a lot of people said, I really think that they needed at least one more kind of higher leverage guy, or at least a guy who they could have gotten a bit more swing and miss from. Because Caleb Ferguson's great in the sense that he's going to get a lot of soft contact. We saw it yesterday or last night in the game. I mean, he was just getting soft contact all 3 outs, but I felt like they just needed another guy that was a high swing and miss and whiff guy to go along with their top 3. So and then seeing guys like Griffin Jacks, and I really wanted him. I made that pretty clear in some of the GCs that I really wanted him this trade deadline, and fortunately he goes to Tampa Bay. And I think for me it's just more of, did they necessarily need per se to go and get another high leverage arm or get an SP5? Not necessarily. However, basing off of what they gave up to get the 2 best bats on the board, which is why my grade is as high as it is, and what other teams gave up for some of the guys that should have been on their radar for that swing and miss guy, like a Griffin Jacks or maybe Louis Varland or whoever, they easily could have matched and or beat that and still would have been very good. I think that was the main thing we were talking about a little bit here, is after they got Gino, we're like, wow, they still have a lot of ammo left too. Like, they didn't give up a single one of their 8 top 100 guys to get the 2 best bats on the board, plus a really solid reliever. I mean, they could have gotten one really solid guy, and, they were in on Joan Duran. So there is, they tried. I'll take that. But at the same time, I felt like when you were in those, last 30 minutes where it felt like you couldn't refresh your notifications fast enough to seeing all the trades, and you were seeing the relievers, especially the Twins relievers, just going left, right, center, you're like, I mean, it's clear they are fire sailing. Like, you maybe could have swung in and got that when Duran went to the Phillies. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't feel great about the SP5 either, and we'll see how that goes. However, I said in my video yesterday too, if Gilbert and Kirby can find a way to be consistent and be really good, and Castillo and Wu keep the way they're pitching, that SP5 becomes really irrelevant if the other 4 starts are going well and consistently. So that's where I'm at with that. So to move on, the second question still related to the deadline, but it's the last deadline question, really. Although the Mariners did very well at the deadline by most accounts, there were definitely some players that got away, and we kind of just talked about them. But to you, who was the one that got away for you? The one that you were really hoping they would manage to snab, and they could not do it. And even with hindsight and what the other team had to give up to get that person, you thought the Mariners could have done and beat. So we're going to start out same order as last time. Start out with Gavin.
I think most of the guys are probably going to talk about Yohan Duran, so I won't talk about that one. The only reason, I would have loved Yohan Duran. Potential, when you get a guy that's that good in the 9th inning, and you already have a guy that's good in the 9th inning, potential for ego. I'm not in the clubhouse. I don't know exactly what that looks like, bringing him in and having him shift roles. So for me, the one that got away, and I don't know if he was attainable because of Taj Bradley, but Griffin Jacks. I actually, once upon a time I was at Push working down here in player development, and I actually got to work with him. He is a dude on and off the field. And just seeing his development and everything, man, that guy has really grown in his career. And now he's like, he's killing it. He's the one that, for me, that got away. I don't think we had anybody that was relative to Taj Bradley, maybe Logan Evans, but yeah, I would take probably Taj Bradley over Logan Evans as well. So for me, the real one that got away is probably Camilo Duvall. Just because the trade package, everything, you can bring him in the 7th, 8th, and he could, go back and forth between Matt Brash and just be a late innings guy that really improves your floor, especially, with the unfortunate Trent Thornton leaving, and just, hopefully, and best luck to him with that recovery. We've seen a lot of basketball players dealing with that, and man, I hope he's going to be doing all right, and we can see him down the road. But Camilo Duvall is probably the ultimate one that got away.
Okay, moving on to Jage.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit different here. I had made mention to it a couple of times that I can't really get upset about Duran because, I mean, straightforward, trades are always so much eye of the beholder. And the Twins very much decided that Mick Abel and his proximity to being able to contribute immediately, as well as the potential for Tait, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, is a long term. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm also pretty sure Tait now is he is their number 4 overall prospect now. So I mean that's a get. That was a big get for them. And I mean, realistically, sure. Like if we want to throw out Harry Ford, is let's say that was their Tait. Ford probably ranks in that same area. I think he's in front of Culpepper, but he might not be in front of Keishel, or he's not in front of Emmanuel Rodriguez. He's definitely not in front of Walker Jenkins. So that one doesn't necessarily hurt me as much. Again, I would have liked to have seen an additional arm, but I don't think any of the arms really like make me go, oh, that's the one that got away. I forgot who mentioned it earlier. I think it was actually Jay, but Willie Castro. We desperately needed to upgrade on the Dylan Moore role. And Willie Castro fit that. He gave you a switch hitting ability. He was going to be able to give you multiple positions, whether it was in the infield, playing right field, and potentially being a platoon option with Canzone. And again, the cost for him was essentially ended up being the Twins. Again, these are per MLB, not Fangraphs or anything right now, but like Ryan Gallagher, who slotted in as a AA right-handed pitcher who's now their 16th overall prospect. That's basically Michael Morales, which again, not overly concerned about losing Izzy and Morales when you have Kate Anderson and you have Ryan Sloan and you have Gerangelo. Like you've got the depth and more talented depth than Izzy and Morales, no offense to either one of them. So sitting there and going, okay, so Castro would have cost Morales and a flyer. Yeah, that one kind of hurts, especially given because even when you try to project out towards roster expansion in September and you go through the idea of like, okay, in theory, I guess like Miles Mastrobuoni is probably going to slide into that role, you would assume, unless we start seeing Ben Williamson taking reps at different locations down in Tacoma over the next month. They might just say he needs to stay at third and just work on being able to elevate the ball a little bit more. So again, Castro really felt like a good fit, not only from the standpoint that it would be important for them to have that utility player role because Dylan Moore just has not had that in his bag since about May 1st. But also like he's Julio's buddy. Like they trained together. Like this was another good fit for the clubhouse. They had been on him for a while. They were in on him this offseason. They were in on him throughout the year. They had contacted them when they were talking about the Duran deal. Like Castro was a target for them. So it was very interesting that they didn't approach that, especially, listen, I know you got Gino. That's great. We talked about Castro potentially being a Gino replacement if they weren't able to acquire Gino. Castro's not a third baseman. Like people are upset that we're replacing Ben Williamson because Gino's had a down year defensively at third base. Castro's worse. Like Castro was going to have to be a utility type role. So yeah, a little odd that one got away, especially when seeing the cost. I don't know. Maybe they did offer and maybe the Cubs offered a little bit more than they were willing to because the Cubs missed on literally everybody. So they were going big game hunting with Mackenzie Gore, and the Nationals basically said, give us Cassie, give us Shaw, give us Triantos, give us your whole farm. So yeah, I would say Willie Castro is the guy for me.
Okay. I like that answer. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. I mean, I think like Johan Duran, I will never get it right, but the guy from the Twins is going to be the obvious one, but like kind of to Jage's point, they took their shot at it. They were there and the Twins kind of said no and went somewhere else. You asked the girl out. She said, no, you got to move on. They took their shot there. So I can't get too mad at that being the one that got away because they were there on it. Just wasn't in the cards. I think Willie Castro is a great answer. Not to double up on answers here. I will also go, a couple people mentioned fifth starter. Now Bryce Miller looked really good in the rehab tonight, so maybe that ends up being a moot point and Bryce Miller comes back and is Bryce Miller of old, and then it doesn't matter. but I'll throw kind of a random name that I talked about on my channel a couple times. Adrian Hauser would have, I think, been a really just nice, quick, cheap addition to the back end of the rotation. He's not as good as his ERA indicates, but he keeps the ball on the ground, throws strikes enough, going to be fine in T-Mobile Park. You stick him there, he makes 7-8 starts. He's going to give you a 4.0, 3.8 something ERA, probably going deeper into games than Logan Evans can go for you. He's going to eat innings. And if he stinks, you can throw him out there for 7 at 115 pitches, and who cares? So, it's kind of a name. Nobody in this group should lose sleep that Adrian Hauser isn't a Mariner, but it's sometimes there's the ceiling raiser acquisitions like Naylor and Gino. And then there's also, as I'm watching Josh Naylor try to beat out an infield hit, he's not even close, distracting on the side there. But sometimes you need those, floor stabilizers as well at deadlines. I think Hauser would have been a guy like that. So, Duran's kind of the obvious one. I think Castro makes a ton of sense. Didn't want to repeat it, but I agree. Bench would have been a nice thing to upgrade for this team just because Dylan Moore's been so bad. Now, if Dylan Moore can go back to being Dylan Moore, then great. You probably didn't need anybody. But we just haven't seen it. The guy's got like 2 hits since May and 3 walks or something. So it's been really brutal. Castro would have fit that bill. Alex Call's a guy that went to the Dodgers that would have maybe been interesting. Austin Slater, Harrison Bader. So we'll see. Could be getting Victor Robles back soon too. So, some of those with Bryce Miller, Victor Robles, maybe moot points a little bit. So I'll go with Adrian Hauser as a wild card.
I will say on Hauser, and again, I personally would not have had, I don't think I would have had a huge issue with this trade. And I think it's probably going to be a common opinion in this group as well. Would you have given up Ben Williamson for Adrian Hauser? Because they did Curtis Mead, and that's not nobody. Like that was a
good deal for the White
Sox. That was a good deal for the White Sox. So I just kind of sit there and go like, it might have been Ben Williamson. And again, I probably would have been fine. I would have just said, okay, well, give Gino 3 years at the end of the year. Like easy. But yeah, I love Hauser. I thought that would have been a great fit. But then I saw Curtis Mead and I went, nah, I'm good. I'm good on that.
And to your point earlier, Jage, like, that is a lot of this too. Like the guys that go back that you go, it's a guy I liked, even like someone that, that returned for Griffin Jacks. It's like, I can see this team going, we're not giving up a starting pitcher for a reliever that they're volatile. So no, totally. And I probably wouldn't give up Ben Williamson for Hauser. Honestly, I was just I didn't even know who he was traded for, to be perfectly honest. So I really came prepared. I probably wouldn't have done that. I'm not a huge Ben Williamson guy, but also like he's probably long-term more valuable than Hauser. I was just thinking of a name that I was like, ooh, starting pitcher. But yeah, no, I think that goes back to your initial point too, of like, these things are so tough to judge because maybe they did, like you said, with Castro, maybe they did take a shot at it and the Cubs got a little bit more desperate and came in. So it's all makes this what's so fun to talk about, but also a bit of a mystery. And it looks like something happened. So I'm going to get off the mic here.
I'm behind.
I know I'm a little bit behind too, so I don't really know what happened.
We'll see in a sec.
So yeah, Patrick, do you want to go or do we want to wait to see? Did Polanco just nuke one? I don't.
Just hit one off the wall. It was like a long,
okay.
It's kind of weird. Garcia got it in quick, long single.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Jage with a vintage Dave Sims thinking it was a home run.
Yeah, he got us.
No, I'd just say
it was 2 feet from the yellow line, man.
Oh yeah, he didn't miss by much.
No,
I'll say any Twins reliever. I think obviously they were very close to Duran. That probably was the one they wanted to do. It would have been interesting to see if they had been able to like pivot and cycle down. And I always wonder when they don't get a deal to go through, why they don't do that at the deadline. They seemingly just like don't do kind of like additional last second deadline deals, which again is kind of why they didn't get that arm that we keep talking about. But yeah, I'll just say any Twins reliever, like Louis Varland would have been interesting. Griffin Jacks, Brock Stewart, and then obviously Duran. So yeah, just like that other arm. And it one of these days, I'm going to get to the bottom of why they just they just call it good and don't do anything on the last day. Or if they do, it's like the most like waiver claimy, like the Edward Bizardo waiver claim or whatever they did a couple years ago. But yeah, that's for me.
Okay. Well, I'm looking really forward to the investigation and the findings on that, so we can figure that out. Chris, go ahead with who got away for you.
I'm going to go completely away from what I think everybody's thinking, and I'm just going to say it's just name one of those mid-tier relievers that I've been fixated on, and I don't know why, and that was Kyle Finnegan of the Washington Nationals. I feel like he was a guy that wasn't cheap. If you saw me searching, whoever they got in return from the Tigers slots 23rd in the national system. So it just feels like that's a guy that could have solidified our bullpen. Would that make anybody that said not an A make it an A? Probably not, but it's still like, hey, this is another arm. Somebody's fist pumping. We got bases loaded. So while it's a low tier, mid tier type of move, it's just a low cost guy. And you could probably find 6 other relievers that were named, but when you're going on the Griffin Jacks, right? The Taj Bradley, no. The Adrian Hauser, do we really want, Jage throughout Ben Williamson equivalent? Like, answer is no. Like, some of these trades are like, I wouldn't do that. But for Kyle Finnegan, who I felt like that was a target we could have had last year at the deadline. He didn't even move at all. And then I think he was available this offseason. And now, he had, contract thing. I know the Nats paid some. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I still think he was a guy that we could have targeted. And if it was indeed money, I saw Jage doing the money sign there. If it was indeed money, then okay, I know we don't have any, forget about that answer. But that's where I'm going to stick with, just to be a little bit different and name one of those mid-tier relievers I think we could have got for really even cheaper than the 3 other guys we landed.
Okay. Yep. Camren, your turn.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying so far. All really good answers. But for the sake of being different, I'm going to throw out a bench piece that I didn't touch on in my last answer, but I thought was actually a big thing about the deadline is that their bench right now is kind of awful. It's good to be hidden because the lineup is so beautiful looking. But was it Garver, Mascheroni, Moore, Solano? That is putrid. I hope they never go to their bench now. That is awful. So a name I wanted to throw out there was Harrison Bader. Because right now also you don't really have a backup center fielder for Julio. It's like Randy or is it Canzone or Moore with Rayleigh hurt. So I thought Bader would have been really good. I'm also intrigued by Canzone being a full-time player, but until then I think Bader platooning with him would be really interesting. He's also a fantastic defender, and his splits are pretty even, but they're both very good. I think he has a 770 OPS against both sides. So that was a bad swing. So I think Bader could have been very interesting. He went for nothing. He's a rental. I just think raising the floor of that bench would have been a good thing for them to do, because right now, obviously, the bench is not good. I agree with what everyone else has said, and my number one answer would have been any one of the Twins relievers for sure.
Yep, fair enough. All right, T, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess not to second anybody too much, but for me, it was Willie Castro 100%. I just think the price that he was for, I think with Dylan Moore doing, I don't even know what we can call what Dylan Moore is doing at this point, anything, but being brutal, Willie Castro he's played 6 different positions this year so far, pretty good against lefties, does the whole thing. My only fear obviously would have been a third rental. So that's a lot of rentals on the offensive side. But for me, yeah, it had to have been Willie Castro, especially with, like you guys have said, the bench just being so brutal.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier my big guy that I really wanted them to get was Griffin Jacks. Obviously, they don't have a Taj Bradley to give away. Now, I will say that the Twins put Taj Bradley in AAA, so he's not with their rotation right now, which I think is interesting. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, who knows what they would have taken? Maybe they wouldn't have necessarily taken a Taj Bradley. I don't know, but yeah, I would have really liked him, and people were kind of hyping me up on the Rockies relievers a little bit. I don't pay attention. The Rockies can tell you more than 4 players that are on the Rockies, but people were telling me this Halverson guy is like throwing 100 and has some nasty off-speed stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm down with that. But yeah, my biggest guy was Griffin Jacks from pretty much the start of the deadline till the end. So it was really annoying when they didn't get him. But at the end of the day, like, the price is the price, and it is what it is. Like, it's not a big deal to me. So moving on to question 3, this one's gonna be a really more quick and to the point one. I want you to make an official prediction right now, right here, and you have to stick to it. And we will go crazy on social media if you go go against it at any point. Do the Mariners make the playoffs? And if so, how do they get there? So we're gonna go with Gavin. Go ahead and make your prediction.
Yeah. Before that, I do also want to say maybe this is a hot take, or maybe you guys are on the same page. Had they have had Tyler Locklear and Samad Taylor, yeah, we got some good shit happening.
I'm still behind. I don't even know what you're.
I know.
I'm assuming it's a walk-in. It has to be a walk-in run. I'm assuming.
I'm downstairs, so I got to watch it on Stream Ace. So we're a little bit behind, but I'm gonna go. I guess a hot take, but maybe I got some people on my side about this. Had they have had Tyler Locklear for most of the year and Samad Taylor over Dylan Moore, and I know Dylan Moore had a good, I guess, first month or two over Dylan Moore and Solano, I think they would have been in a better spot where they're currently at. But for now, talking about the playoffs, there we go. Now we're on time. Going for the playoffs, I'm going to say yes. And I couldn't tell you if they're going to win the division or they're going to make it in the third wild card. I would say if I was a betting man, I'd say they make it in the second wild card, and they're going to go with. I'm going to go with 89 wins. That's where I'll end with them.
Okay, wild card 2, making the playoffs per Gavin. Go ahead, Jage, and make your official prediction.
Yeah, I would love to say that they're going to catch the Astros, but no. It's Houston, and it'll always be Houston. And I remember having a 10-game lead, and it's Houston. Again, they are the cockroach of MLB franchises. You literally have Kyle Tucker is gone. Jordan's missed the whole season. Paredes literally ripped the hamstring off of his freaking leg. Half the rotation was missing. Oh, and then, by the way, we figured out one tinker with Hunter Brown about halfway through last year, and now he's one of the best 3-bit pitchers in the American League. And it's like, sweet dude, that's great. I love that also Valdez can throw 8 innings a start, and it doesn't matter. He just never gets tired. So I would love to think that they're going to be able to run them down. I just don't think that they can. I would love to be wrong. I would love for them to win the division. I think that they built an offense that can go chase it down. But again, the difficulty of only having 3 more games left against them makes it a little bit more difficult. I kind of am in agreement with Gavin. I think wild card 2 is most likely. The reason why the AL East is going to beat the hell out of each other over the next 2 months. And the Yankees are going to beat up the Red Sox. The Red Sox are going to beat up the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are going to beat up the Yankees. And it's just going to keep happening over and over again. The Mariners just need to go 4-3. Pretty much they go 4-3 the next 10 weeks. They're going to be good. Like, they'll be good. And I feel confident that they have the capability to do that with the hitting. I think there's an outside chance that they could end up getting into wild card 1 and being able to host, but I would not be surprised if it's wild card 2. In that instance, I would assume we would be going to New York, which would be a nightmare. That is probably the last matchup that I think all of us as fans would want. Literally anywhere but there. But I think wild card 2, I would hope that somehow New York can catch Toronto and Toronto just falls flat on their face and we can get Cal Raleigh going into Toronto again and just putting his name on the deed for the Rogers Center permanently. And I would love to go to another playoff game. So let's say Toronto will be wild card 1. We'll be wild card 2.
Okay. I like it. Jay, go ahead.
All right, let me just see this pitch right here. Oh, come on. Okay, anyways. Moving on. What was it called? Playoffs. Yes, I do think that they get in. I think this lineup is probably, on paper, I would say it's got to be top in the AL. I mean, we can have debates about it, but it's there. I kind of got to echo what Jage said about the Astros. I do think they can. Like, if I was an outside fan looking at these rosters right now, and obviously the Astros may be getting some reinforcement, especially on the pitching side. With Garcia, I think Javier and Arrighetti are all making, rehab appearances now, and they just add Correa and Sanchez. So they have some, reinforcements that have come in too. On paper, as an outside fan, I'd probably say I think the Mariners can do it. They win tonight, they're 3.5 back, but it just doesn't matter. That this could be the Astros starting lineup, this stream, and we'd somehow find ways to either as a pitching staff shut people out or BABIP our way to 3-2 victories. I'm not trying to take away from them. They've earned it. They've won They do something right there. So it's not trying to be like a dig for any Astros fans watching this. So I'll say wild card. I'll say second wild card because, again, like Jage said, I think Gavin hinted it too. The AL East is kind of going to beat up on each other enough. If you can kind of take care of this series with Texas, I feel like after this series, we'll have kind of a clearer area. Because if you win, even if you split here, win 3 out of 4, you're going to be a game or 2 up. You have the tiebreaker on Texas. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 2-3 games with 48 to play does matter. Despite losing a 10-game lead last year, it's bigger than people think. So I do believe they could catch Houston. This lineup is good enough. The pitching's starting to maybe settle in here a little bit too. Everyone's kind of more pitching to the back of their baseball cards, for lack of a better term. If that happens, then I definitely do think they will, but I've just seen it too much from Houston. So I'm going to also say second wild card as well here. And I agree. I do not want to go to New York for a playoff series. Please, someone else. Toronto drop off. Maybe the Mariners can get that first wild card because, man, that's just like it doesn't, like, our offense can be great in New York, obviously, but it just kind of neutralizes the pitching advantages and potential. I don't know. It's just, and that bullpen, if the Yankees starter goes 3 innings, we're probably going to be in a world of hurt. They can bring in Camilo Duvall in the 4th. So, but yeah, second and in.
Okay, Patrick, time to make your prediction.
Yeah, wild card 2 for me as well. Not gonna go anywhere crazy. That's where they've been for a pretty long time. I mean, I guess they're kind of like, back and forth from 2 and 3 right now, but feels like a wild card 2 team if I've ever seen it. I'll say like 87 maybe seems good. 86, 87. That seems like the real where they've been sort of a tractor beam on all season, with how they've just kind of been kind of slowly finding their middle ground. Yeah, it's not rocket science for me. The Astros have been through absolute hell this year with injuries, and it really hasn't mattered since like May. So I'm wild card 2, same thing as Jage. AL East going to beat each other up. Then yeah, they'll land the plane. I think I just look at their lineup and their rotation right now and the back end of their bullpen, and I'm like, there's just no way this team isn't going to figure it out, especially with just like the vibes boost of what they got. So they'll get there, I think.
Okay, Chris, your turn.
We're keeping the train rolling. Wild card 2, I think, is the most easy answer on the board. I would love to say we're going to track down Houston just like everybody wants to, but quite frankly, I think the sights of the team can just be let's just get in, and we figure it out from there. Because in playing our game, Jage said 4 of 3. My whole take is anytime we win a game, game 1, go win the series, collect series W's, right? That's going to just stockpile wins. You're going to pick up games on as all these teams beat up on each other. I really do think I haven't looked at Fangraphs at all. I don't know what our percentage chance to make the playoffs is, but it should be very high. I think we're going to get in. I think if they just play their game and don't even worry too much about Houston, right? Like, okay, they're there. It is attainable to go and get them. This fucking guy, excuse me. It's attainable to still catch Houston, but we don't have to play that game to try and chase them down. Get into the playoffs, play who we play. Yes, I don't want to see the Yankees in New York. That's another team we just don't play very well against, especially in that Homer Dome. But I'm still very confident in this team the rest of the way. Just by the sheer reaction we have to giving up 1 run, I hope that the rest of the season is different and this offense does produce, because the idea that, George, Logan, Brian, Miller, the whole gang has to go perfect every game. I hope that doesn't exist anymore. I hope this lineup is good enough to just forego all of this nonsense that we used to have to go through. Like, they had to be perfect. They had to pitch 1 or 2 runs or we lose. So everybody's reaction, we have PTSD of, holy shit, Like this game's over already, right? If this happens to go 2-1, we're like, oh my God, like, why am I even watching the rest of this thing? I do think it's different. I do think we get stockpile wins on our way to a playoff spot. And then from there, it's anybody's game, especially if all of our guys turn it on. More importantly, the pitchers.
I would just prefer Tom Canzone be able to cleanly field a ground ball and not cost an extra 90 feet and give up the run.
Reasonable.
Yep. Me
Not
too.
a hard ask.
Yeah. All right, Cameron, your turn. What's your prediction?
Yes. My answer is yes. Unless this run gets driven in. Okay. But yeah, I think my answer is yes. Will they win the division? No. I'll keep it short there. The Astros doing all this and up 4 games now. If Mariners win tonight, they'll be 3.5, which doesn't seem like a lot, and it really isn't too much. But for them, it feels like a lot, and they're only going to get, presumably, they're only going to get healthier. I think a couple of their starting pitchers are back soon. Pena will be back very soon. We'll see on Yordan. But I don't think the Astros are slowing down. I think they're going to be just fine. They're going to cruise their way to the division. And then the question becomes, are the Mariners going to be better than one of the Rangers, Red Sox, Yankees? Because right now it's really just a 4-team race. We'll see in the Guardians. I'm not too scared about Cleveland or the Tampa Bay. They've been not too good recently. So we could be better than Rangers. I think we are on paper. We'll see on the Red Sox, Yankees. The Yankees had a really good deadline, so I think they'll be able to challenge for the division. And at the end of it, if I was predicting, I'd actually predict that the Yankees would pass the Blue Jays in the end of the division, and the Blue Jays would drop down to a wild card. And I do think the Mariners could make the second wild card. Okay, nice. Oh, never mind. I do think the Mariners can make the second wild card, and we'll have another AL East team in the 3. But I'm going to say yes, they make the wild card. Hopefully they do it in that Rockies series before they play the Dodgers for the last 3 of the year. Even though the Dodgers will have clinched by then, they're still going to have a lot of good players play. So hopefully we can do it against the Rockies. Similarly, when we beat the A's to clinch against a bad team, it's more fun that way. So, yeah.
The Super bullpen just blew another lead for those paying attention. The Yankees Super bullpen has blown. All 3 of their new relievers have blown leads tonight.
We didn't want any of them anyway.
8 runs into the third.
Awesome. Well, it's really fitting, especially during this recording, that we have all that going on. So, T, go ahead and make your prediction. Do they make the playoffs? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I'll say yes. I'll go with everybody. I'm going to go sneaky. I'll say they get the first wild card. I think that would be best. But I am on the side of Chris here, and I think that at this point, please just make the playoffs. Like, I don't really care where it is at this point. Please make it. And just kind of see what happens from there. Win a game. You never know what's going to happen. I still think, even going back to the playoff series back in 2022, like they just started to get I think they should have won some of those Astros games at the end of the day, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think, they're kind of a team that gets hot. Like once they just kind of get going, get rolling, like just get hot, win some games and see what happens.
Yeah, I feel so I was going to be the brave one and be like, yeah, I think, you know what? They're going to win the division. And I was looking at the schedules for August and September for both us and the Astros. And, it's like, I look at our schedule, right? Like we have the White Sox coming up, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, the A's, Cleveland, Tampa Bay again, ATL, or Atlanta. I don't know why I said it as their acronym because I'm looking at the schedule. Angels and Cardinals at home, which I think is nice, and Colorado, obviously. But then I looked at the Astros schedule, and they have the Marlins coming up. They have Baltimore twice. They have the Rockies, they have the Angels, they have Texas, they have Atlanta as well. So it's just like, it's really not that much better than ours. So in that case, I'll go yes, wild card spot. Like, don't really care what wild card spot, but sure, we'll just all say WC2. Why not? Let's just keep it all nice and uniform. So yeah, basically we all say that they're going to make the playoffs, and that's going to come back to bite us a lot if they somehow don't. But yeah, because that happened last year when I did the State of Unions. Everyone's like, yep, they're going to make the playoffs, or it was like the preseason predictions, and then they didn't. So we'll see how that goes. So moving on, question 4. This one is going to be kind of an interesting one. I feel like a lot of people might repeat how they answer this. So you're going to pick one pitcher and one position player that you feel is most crucial to the success of the Mariners for the rest of the season. Bonus points if you don't use Julio as the position player, but if you want to, because he is the obvious answer, go ahead. I'm not going to berate you if you do, but bonus points if you don't. So go ahead, Gavin, one pitcher and one position player.
First, I did want to wrap up the thought from last one. I think the only way they get to 89 wins in that wild card spot is there's going to be a handful of games where they're losing 4-1 or they're losing 5-2 or 5-1. They have to win some of those games. It's gonna have to happen. They're gonna have to find them and claw their way out. They're gonna have to win some of those tough games that they just haven't done this year.
You mean like this
whole
one?
lot.
The one that's
Yeah, I mean like
happening
this one.
right in front of our
Exactly.
eyes?
The one that we're looking at right now. This is a game you gotta go try and win this one.
Mhm.
So they gotta win a couple of these games. But to get to the crucial for success pitcher and hitter, I'm gonna go with floor, and I'm gonna say Jackson Kowar. If he's gonna be if he's your guy moving forward, and he's the floor with Bizardo and Vargas and the rest of those guys, it's got to be one of those guys. And I'm gonna go with Kowar because I really like his stuff, and I think he has a chance to really kind of shine from floor perspective. And I'm gonna go with him for my pitcher that has to kind of shine and really help out when it is a 5-1 game, and you gotta rely on somebody to just come in and stop the bleeding, or you gotta rely on somebody to cross you over into the next starter. For hitter, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go with another floor guy. Call him floor, whatever you want. Dominic Canzone is gonna be my guy. That if everybody else just kind of plays 90% to their baseball card, and we kind of cruise through the rest of the way, you're gonna need somebody from, I guess, the bottom of your lineup to really kind of amp up everybody else. And Cole Young would be a good option, but I'm going to go with Dominic Canzone. Maybe he can provide that power that you just didn't expect for the rest of the year.
Okay, I like it. We did not use Julio the first time, so good start. So go ahead, Jage.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be one of two relievers. So not necessarily a fair answer, but with Trent Thornton out, Trent Thornton wasn't necessarily your best reliever, but what Trent Thornton could do was pitch multiple innings. Trent Thornton not being an option out of the pen is a significant issue, specifically when you're talking about your Logan Evans starts, potentially Bryce Miller when he gets back as well, because we can't pretend like Bryce is just going to come back and be able to be a 6 innings type of guy. He's probably going to be 4 or 5 innings his first time, a couple times through. You need to see how the arm's going to respond, how the bone spurs are going to feel. So you need a multiple inning guy. So for me, those two guys, that one that has done it, or two that have done it, and two that are very, very inconsistent but look incredible when they're on, is Casey Legumina and Carlos Vargas. Those guys are your multi-inning guys. Both of them have swing and miss in their pitching, in their repertoire, but it's all about, they got to know where the ball is going, because when Legumina is on, no one touches him. When Vargas is on, no one touches him. But there's been too many times lately where they haven't been. So one of those two dudes really needs to step up, because they're going to be the multi-inning guys to help bridge it. To your point, maybe not even the 5-1 games, the 4-3 games, the 4-2 games, when you're in reach, it's one swing of the bat and you're back in it. You need somebody that's going to be able to eat those innings, because you can't be throwing Spire down 1. You can't be throwing Bizardo down 1, because you didn't add that second arm. Like, yeah, Caleb Ferguson might be the guy that steps into that role where he's trying to keep it close. But, I mean, you can't throw Bizardo every single game, as much as Dan Wilson will try to do. For that, it's Legumina or Vargas for me. And then for hitting, I know that we mentioned Cole Young. I know that we mentioned Dom Canzone. For me, it's JP. We need JP that was May and July P and June P. Actually, no, it was June P, not July P. That was bad. So we need JP to be back to what he was, which was drawing lots of walks, going the other way, finding the hole, not worrying about the power, letting the power come to him. Because again, with him moving down into the 8th spot, I truly think that this is I don't think there's anything JP can do to get back into the leadoff spot. I think it's Randy's. I think this is how they're going to move the lineup moving forward. I think they're fairly comfortable with this. So having JP perform the way that he did, and have that in the last 50 games of the year coming out of the 8-hole, big deal. So JP for me is the big one, because again, JP can be, because he has been for multiple months this year, a 5-WAR type player despite being terrible on defense. So we need to see hit that bat come back alive, and that's going to lengthen this lineup to the point where there's no hole. Like, if JP is back, there's no hole. So that's JP for me.
All right, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, JP was going to be my answer too for a hitter. It's the guy that's been the best, that's struggling the most right now. And like Jage said, if you get JP rolling to what he was in the first half of the year, or even if he I think his season WRC plus is 113, even if that leveled out, he stayed at 113, but held like a 113 the rest of the way. That's huge. There's just no easy out in the lineup when you got a guy like that, rolling, and to have him at the bottom of the order, if he can get back to some of his strong OBP, his walks, I mean, it just makes it so hard, because you think, okay, bottom of the order, take a deep breath. No, you got JP there working his 7-8 pitch walks. Cole Young's capable. So to me, I really do think JP, because I just expect everybody else to be good. Obviously it'd be, love to see Gino do what he did in Arizona and everything, and, Cal, but I think JP's the guy right now that has the best chance to kind of boost himself up a little bit from where he is. And pitcher, it's going to be like an obvious one. Logan Gilbert. I like watching here tonight. Now, some of that, Rowdy's double was a little iffy. That hit by pitch, a little iffy as well. But too many of these starts with Logan were for 4 innings. I'm like, dude might have a perfect game. I'm looking at my wife going, Logan's dialed in. This is going to be special. And then it's like 4 runs the next inning. And it just seems like little things are snowballing on him. The stuff's looked good. The strikeout and walk rates are fantastic. I need Logan that we saw against Milwaukee. It doesn't have to be that dominant every time, but we need that a little bit more. Otherwise, like, this is a game tonight, and people are going to be watching this today. What is these guys talking about? Like, you got to win this game. I mean, it's not the end. It's not season over if they don't, but like, Logan and George have got to be dialed in, because you're having Logan Evans there. You're having Bryce Miller, like Jage said, coming back. You don't know how good he's going to be. Castillo's been, the rock, all season. And then Woo's been great. But Woo's another one too. We need a little bit more stability and not some of those 4 or 5 run blowups that seem to happen. So I'm going to take one as Julio down the line. It's foul. Okay. But Logan Gilbert for me, just, we know what he is. We know how good he can be. And it just seems to be 1 inning every start from a lot of these guys. Really. It's like you take out 1 inning and they're perfect, but that 1 inning is just brutal. So I'm going to take JP and Logan Gilbert for me.
Okay, Patrick, you're up.
Yeah, just to add some, I'll add some additional clarity to that. I think, like, I was going to say Logan, but I'll say the same thing about George, who was great yesterday. Yeah, they need those 2 guys to be as good as they were. I mean, Brian Wu has ably filled in as that tier level guy for most of the season, although he's been slipping a little bit lately, I would say. But yeah, I just think those guys being at the top of their game would be a huge difference maker. And I'll also take a cop out and just say that Julio at home is really, I think, the biggest thing. I mean, if you look at his road numbers this year, there's the entire problem with his offensive season is contained in his home splits. It's even more extreme than like the differential. Like, you can't be that upset about, that looks like a tank. Oh, really? Oh man, that's
brutal. Sorry to the audio people if you're listening on audio platforms and just hearing us randomly just veer off. The game is happening as we're talking, so yeah,
that's brutal. But I would just say getting Kirby and Gilbert back on that level is great. I guess I'll just say Naylor for my second one. I think we kind of, Gino just being there and being Gino is probably good enough. He'll be what he is, and maybe he doesn't hit as well away from Arizona, but I think just having Naylor kind of bring the unique skill set he has as a big guy at the plate, like the kind of ability to do whatever he wants with his approach at any time, whether it's high contact, hits for power, swings a lot but doesn't strike out. I think he's like a really interesting piece in the lineup, and yeah, it would be really good to see him pull something together. And I wish that ball had gotten out, because that would have been huge for them. And I appreciate, by the way, you guys having me. I got to run, but thank you, and this was really fun for all of us.
We appreciate you being a part of this. Patrick from Mariner Muse, go check him out on Twitter if you haven't already. But he has like thousands of followers, more than any of us. So you're already following him for sure. So, but I appreciate you being a part of it. Yeah, we were able to watch Josh Naylor get his first ever Marine Layer experience, so that was a fun one. Chris, it's time to go to
we
you.
Went through that together. That was a fun experience, I guess.
Initiation.
I don't know if this is a fair one to use, but I'm going to say Bryce Miller, and it's for a lot of reasons. We've talked about the shakiness and our lack of confidence in the fifth starter. If he is able to come back healthy, that's most important. I don't want him being rushed. If he's not healthy, don't come back, right? But if he's ready to go, he pitched well tonight, obviously. If he's ready to go, if he recovers nicely, we need him. And that opens up the door for so many things. That allows a potential move for Evans to bullpen to eat up some of these long relief type innings if we have to. I don't know exactly how that's going to work roster construction wise, right? If Evans would even stay on the roster, probably not. But it feels like it takes the load off of everybody. If Miller's able to come back in, if he's able to start going 6 innings as opposed to these shorter starts that Evans has been giving us, I do think that just makes us a better team overall. And from being selfish, makes me at ease, because it's like, okay, we got Bryce Miller today, as opposed to, okay, we have Logan Evans. Sorry, Logan, I love you. I hope you throw a perfect game every time you come out for us, but I would prefer Bryce to have the ball at this particular point in time. Hitters, Jage and Jay kind of stole my thunder. I'm going with JP. I know he's, as stated, he's not going to be at the top of the order anymore, but he is. I know our bench stinks right now, but he is one of the guys that is platoon proof, right? So being in that 8 spot, he breaks up Canzone and or Raley and Cole Young. So if he's going to, not be a good player anymore, could struggle at the bat, not get on base, then we're going to have some problems at the bottom of the order, right? You bring in a lefty, mows them all down. Now we're like, God damn it, here we go again, right? We're going to strike out 500 times in every game we play. But if he's able to, extend at bats, see a lot of pitches, get on base, whatever which way. I prefer him to be hot with the bat, but I'll take a higher on base percentage if he's able to just. We need to create chaos. I know being a runner on third base with less than 2 outs is not a prime spot for the Seattle Mariners, but getting on base, creating chaos on the base paths in front of and behind some of these guys that we need to break up, because I don't know what's actually going to happen when we're like what our lineup looks like against lefty. Are we still going to throw out Donovan Solano out there? Because he instantly makes this lineup look awful. And where does he play? Probably is Raley lefty proof? I don't think so. So it's a weird spot. Like then enter our boy Dylan Moore. It's just so many questions. And I know JP doesn't answer that question of Dom Canzone and Cole Young, but he just makes life easier for everybody, makes Dan Wilson's job easier and our job easier as fans. And then hopefully he does a little bit better defensively so we don't have to stress about that anymore. But I think we don't go as JP goes anymore. I believe it wholeheartedly if he was at the top of the order. But maybe if he does turn it back on, maybe there's a few times throughout a week that we can see him at the top and maneuver some guys around and create some good matchups. But that's where I'm at for now.
Okay. Camren, your turn. 1 position player, 1 pitcher.
Yeah, for my position player, I'm actually going to go a new name that hasn't been said yet. I'm going to go with Cole Young. And last night is kind of part of my evidence for this. He's going to be in the 9th spot, I'm assuming, going forward, and that's a good spot for him. And if he just does what he did, not really last night because he hit a bomb, but doesn't need to do that. But if he can just be a singles guy, doubles guy down the line, get on base for the top of the lineup, I think that is so huge. Having a good 9-hitter is so important. Every good team you see at the bottom of the order, those guys get on for the top of the order. And the Mariners have these big bats now. So I think Cole Young, if he just keeps up what he's doing, be a 110, 115 WRC plus, be a singles guy, get on base for Randy and Cal and the big guys, I think that's going to be huge for this lineup. And then for my pitcher, I'm going to go with the new guy, Caleb Ferguson. I think his role is really important here as the first lefty ahead of Spire. If he does his job, he makes everyone else behind him, the back end guys, that much better, because you don't need to use Spire in the 6th inning or the 7th inning. You can save them for a more high leverage spot. If Ferguson can get those guys out, and then it just leads to Brash, Munoz, Spire, I think that role is really important. And I think he's going to be he can be a real stabilizer and really hide the fact that we didn't add that extra guy if he can be as advertised and basically just pitch to his Savant page.
Okay, I like that. T, you're up, and before you answer, I want you to know that whoever you say is going to hit 10 home runs in the next month, so you need to be very wise in who you choose.
Well, you kind of stole it there because I was actually going to say Randy as my position player.
Yeah, there we go.
Especially as him in the leadoff spot now. I mean, like, I know we joke about it all the time ever since we did that pod that, like, he's really turned it around, but, like, he just really has. Like, having him being able to step to the plate and be the threat that, you know, he hasn't really been. Yeah, he's been okay since he's been a Mariner, but it really hasn't been that, like, Randy Arozarena excitement that we all had when we first got him. And we're kind of starting to see that again. He's kind of been that hot, has more power. And, you know, having a guy that's hitting over 21 homers or has 21 homers this year, as well as has 20 plus bags in your leadoff spot, like, that's a guy that can kind of change the game and kind of set you up, you know, for success in that game. And then for the pitcher, I think I'm going to go with Chris's answer on this one. I think I'm going to go Bryce Miller here. I don't think that he's going to necessarily be a guy that's going to come and be like, oh, just completely light it up when he comes back. But I think from a mental standpoint, just as a team and as a rotation, I think having all 5 of these guys healthy for the last, hopefully maybe last month and a half going into the playoffs, I think that just psychologically kind of plays a role in terms of being able to really just help this pitching staff kind of get back to that dominance that we're used to seeing them. I think a lot of the guys, you know, during this trade deadline, when just kind of talking about the Mariners and like what pieces they can get, especially on MLB Network, the guys, when they talk about it, they're like, you know, how dominant this pitching staff is. And I feel like, yes, they've been fantastic per usual, but I feel like they haven't necessarily been as dominant as they were last season. So if we can somehow get to at least similar to that level, now having the offense that we have, I think kind of having the full staff back together and having Bryce Miller back in that mix can kind of change everything.
Okay. Yep, I agree. I was going to say, if I wasn't to pick Julio as the obvious answer, as I alluded to when I started this question, and my answer probably would be JP, but I also want to bring up I don't know why, I'm just feeling Jorge Polanco is one of those guys, in the sense of, and this is not saying that he's been bad, I'm simply saying that if he can do what he's been doing the last like month or so and keep that going through the rest of the season, he's an electric bat to have in that lineup. He is hitting the ball hard. He's hitting it on a line. He's hitting it out sometimes. Sometimes he's hitting a solid double, whatever. Like, he is just a really good bat that if he can keep him healthy, keep him producing to where we don't have, you know, another 2 to 3 week drop off like we did earlier on in the season, he's a big bat to have in this lineup to keep it as lengthy as it is. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling there. And then as far as pitcher, it's hard for me not to say Logan Gilbert, honestly, because we've already seen it from Kirby, right? Like, we've seen him have those shutdown outings. We saw him toss 13, 14 Ks against the Angels. Like, we've seen that happen. And Gilbert's had some good starts, but he only has 2 quality starts this year. The first one of them was in opening day. So since then, he's only had 1 quality start since then. And so it's just, for me, he is the most obvious guy that he just needs to pick it up. He needs to be giving you at least quality starts. Like, I'm not asking he needs to go 8 innings with 9 Ks and 0 BBs. Like, I am talking just quality starts, because he's more than capable of doing that. He may still throw one tonight. We don't know yet. But he is a huge part of this rotation. He was the ace coming into the season. I mean, he is your opening day starter, and he only has 2 quality starts all season. Like, that's unacceptable. And obviously he's been hurt. So, I'm not trying to like only rag on him, because there's obviously other factors at play, simply that isn't just underperformance. But he is a huge, he probably just gave up the quality start, I'm assuming, by Jage's reaction. So that even bolsters my point even more. So we're going to move on to the second to last question. In September, the rosters expand from 26 to 28. Who do you predict being the 2 players added to the MLB roster at that time? So who do you think is going to be the 2 September call-ups or promotions? And go ahead, Gavin, if you want to start us off.
First of all, Jake, thank you for doing that tracker that you do with the quality starts. I wanted to give you a shout out for that, because that's awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, I guess getting into that, there's one that I'd be very, very surprised if they didn't call up Harry Ford. You're without Mitch Garver, moving forward after this year, unless you plan on bringing him. If Jerry really plans on bringing him back, I don't know what he does for you moving forward. And that's not a stab at him. I just think he's not a Mariner moving forward. And you need to see kind of what you have with Harry Ford. That also doesn't really dilute his trade value, which people were talking about that with Cole Young. Is it going to, dilute him in trade value? No, because Kobe Mayo also was kind of terrible last year when he got called up, and we were okay with talking about him in a trade package, bringing him to Seattle, or at least most of us. Maybe just me. But I would love to have Kobe Mayo. So I think Harry Ford solidifies himself as one of them. It sucks because you don't have a lot of pitching, and I did some research in between. I think Julio might have been the last one since Double-A that you just called straight up, and then before then it was Dan Altavilla and Eddie D. I'm looking at the Double-A and I'm like, I know he's.
Was Bryce Miller not straight from Arkansas?
Oh yeah, you're right. It might have been Bryce Miller as well, but there's not a ton of guys that make the jump from Double-A. But if you surpass that, if you go past like Sar and Lau, I do have to give a shout out to Austin Kitchen, Pittsburgh guy, went to Coastal Carolina. I also give a shout out to my buddy Anthony Marks, Coastal Carolina, 2016 national champs. Also Pittsburgh, went to Montour. Jage, I know you're from that area, but I had to give a shout out to my buddy out there. So if you're going past that, I know he's got a ton of walks. I've been kind of on him all year, but I do like Michael Hobbs and just kind of see what he's got. And you don't have a ton of options. I guess the other alternative is we just saw Marcus Stroman get let go today. If for whatever reason you are able to grab that guy and put him on your AAA roster, and September rolls around and you want to give him a chance, and he's kind of proven himself a little bit in the PCL where it is kind of hitter friendly. He's a guy that I'm okay with giving a chance to. I know I've seen Mariners Twitter pretty split on Marcus Stroman as of today. If he comes out and he kind of shits the bed in day one, okay, you cut him and it's probably league minimum. But I'd be okay with giving him a chance, but also in this capacity, seeing how it looks, putting him in their minor leagues and saying, hey, there's a chance that you come up in September, and maybe you kind of roll forward with the boys moving past that. So a couple different options, but I guess it breaks down to Harry Ford and I guess Soren Lau would be the guy right now. But if you're going 2 hitters, Samad Taylor, like without a doubt, Samad Taylor.
Okay. Jage, who do you think?
Yeah, so I kind of following the breadcrumbs of how the next month will go, because there are a couple of moving pieces here that I think we have to take into consideration. So I would assume we will get Luke Raley back before the end of August. Most likely, I would assume that Luke Raley would lead to the DFA of Donovan Solano, because Luke Raley does allow you to have a backup first baseman in theory. I know it's redundant with Naylor also being a lefty, but also he does provide the outfield assistance as well. In theory, he could be a lefty pinch hitter in a unique situation if he wanted to. He could give Canzone a breather every once in a while, which I don't think would be the worst idea, because it's not like Raley's some schmuck. He's been hurt. He's been hurt all year. If you look at his Savant page, he was incredibly unlucky to start the year. And then obviously had the oblique, and that cost him a large chunk of the year. And it just felt like he was rusty when he got back as well. So Rayleigh comes back, that happens. When Robles comes back, which again, I would assume middle of September, you could assume that he will be the person that finally removes Dylan Moore from the roster. Mostly because, again, you're not removing Mitch Garver because he is your backup catcher. And you're who's the fourth bench member right now? Is it Mastrobuoni? Is he our fourth bench member?
Yeah.
So I think Mastrobuoni stays on the team. You, in theory, could option Mastrobuoni if you wanted to, but Mastrobuoni provides you a backup infield option in multiple positions. I know Dylan Moore does the same thing, but Dylan Moore is just not hitting. And I could see them optioning Mastrobuoni specifically because Dylan Moore is the longest tenured Mariner. I understand that makes no sense. However, we also don't know what his importance is in that clubhouse, despite the fact that he's struggling. So I would assume Robles ends up replacing Mastrobuoni or Dylan Moore. Once you get to expanding the roster, I know, Chris, I think you brought this up about the fact of like, well, what happens when we run into a left-handed pitcher? So I do think it'll be Harry Ford. But the reason I think it's going to be Harry Ford is because Mitch Garver as a right-handed DH, Jorge Polanco as a right-handed second baseman, to give Cole Young a blow, does give you your best option to be able to perform there. Something that you obviously, if you guys aren't aware, but if you go check it out, Harry Ford isn't hitting lefties. He's hitting the crap out of righties. So that's cool. So in theory, Harry Ford, the big reason I think that it makes sense for Harry Ford is primarily because if you DH Mitch Garver, you cannot currently pitch hit for him when he ends up running into a right-hander, because if you do and Cal gets hurt, you don't have an option. In September, Harry Ford allows you to pinch hit for Mitch Garver with Luke Rayleigh if you wanted to in the DH spot. And guess what? Now it's not a problem because you have Harry Ford, God forbid, something happens to Cal. So I do think Harry Ford's going to be the option. I do think there's a possibility it could be Ben Williamson, but realistically, I think that they're going to want him to just get as many at-bats as possible. He needs to work on launch angle. He needs to work on pulling the ball in the air. He has a good approach, but being a slapdick singles hitter that only plays the right side of the field and needs a 350 BABIP to run a 250 batting average is not going to work. It's not sustainable long term. He's not walking either, which is a calling card of his in the minors. So I don't think it'll be Williamson. So hitting wise, Harry Ford. The pitching one, it's going to be boring. Y'all are probably going to hate it, but it's going to be Sauce. He's got experience being able to pitch in September. It brings a third lefty out of the pen, so it does give you an additional option if you want to use him as well. It could be Lau. I just don't think that they're going to hand it to a guy to what? Like, what's his role going to be? We're getting our teeth kicked in September, eat some innings? Like, Saucedo can do the same thing. At least it gives you an additional left-handed arm if you need to be able to utilize that in a tough spot. I think it's going to be Ford and Saucedo. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ben, but I think he'll stay down. I think Lau is a good opportunity as well. A name I would throw out there, I doubt that they would do this right off the bat. I actually included him in one of my trade packages when I was trying to get Justin Topa. Charlie Bielenson has been a baller all year. He has got a heavy changeup. He has been very, very good. He's already, if I'm not mistaken, he is the closer in Arkansas right now. I think he was handed that job. He's been very, very good. He was, if I'm not mistaken, the runner-up in the Closer of the Year award to Texas A&M when he was drafted. The guy's a late inning guy. So I think there's a possibility. If it's not now, though, I think you see him in the bullpen potentially as early as like May of 2026.
I like the Bielenson pick. Did a little bit of research about him when I was doing my AquaSox media gig, and he has a really interesting story. I want to say he was like a red shirt onto, I don't know if it was North Carolina or Duke, one of those two, wherever he went, and ended up ended up killing it.
Him, man. That's about as
bad. Sorry, Charlie, if you're watching, which, my apologies. But yeah, very interesting story. So I like that name was thrown out there. So Jay, your turn. Who are you taking for September call-ups?
Yeah, and real quick, I just want to say to anybody watching this, if they've seen me throwing my arms up in the air when someone's talking, I'm reacting to the game, not to anybody's takes. I don't want anybody watches think I'm disagreeing with anyone's take here. It's all about the game. I miss the old September call-ups, and you could bring up like 35, 40 guys, because then you could really get fun with this.
Same.
And there's no, you don't even have to like question what you're doing. Just bring them all up. Bring Ben back, bring Harry Ford up, add 6 guys to the bullpen. You can bring up a 6 starter, and it's fun and it's wild. But unfortunately, now it's down to 2. So it's a little interesting. I think Gavin and Jage both hit it on the head with Harry Ford, hit the nail on the head, with Harry Ford. You're going to find at bats for him. Jage's point about the catcher position is spot on, because then you can, like I said, pinch hit for Garver, because there has been some big situation. And Garver's, I think, overall been fine as your backup catcher. I don't have any beef with them or is hitting lefties, but you want Dom or Luke Raley up there against righties. So that makes a ton of sense. It'll be bullpen arms. It could just be 2 guys to carry some innings at the back end of the bullpen, or the front end, I should say. I mean, I'll go even more boring. Casey Lawrence, if he's on the 40, I don't even know if he is or not. He can eat up innings for you. Someone goes 4 innings, Casey can throw the next 6 if it goes, or 5, excuse me. If you're getting blown out, it saves the bullpen. And I'm not dialed into some of the prospects as other people are. So I can't really comment on anybody fun that would be brought up necessarily. Ford would obviously be fun. For sure to see that. And I think, like I said, you can definitely give him at bats. It'll be interesting. Luke and Victor Robles have got to come back in here. Solano's obviously a move there, because do they even know Solano's still in the clubhouse? I haven't even seen him. He might not even be there. They may just be playing a man down right now. So that will be 2, but that'll probably be before September, like Jage and I think Gavin hinted at or mentioned as well. So Harry Ford and Casey Lawrence, something kind of boring at the end, but a guy that can just soak up some innings for you.
Okay, Chris, you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump on the Harry Ford train. I want to see him up. Jage brought up some very great points. If he's going to hit righties well, bring him up. What can it hurt? And if anything, if you're going to not use him next year, then it's trade bait if he performs. So I'm fine with that. I wrote down Leo Rivas, and I don't know, that's not a flashy pick, but it's just it's a guy who's been up. He wasn't uber successful, but he held the fort. He held the fort down. He did. He did okay. But I think that he can be. I don't know his numbers now. If he's playing atrocious, then we can completely disregard this. Jage is shaking his head no, so maybe he's doing well. Bring him back up. I don't know his positional flexibility. I know he did a lot of second base for us. As far as appearances for us, I think he played the outfield once for God knows what reason. A game or 2 at short. But another thing to just, give Cole Young a blow without having to force Dylan Moore into the lineup. And this all goes without saying, we don't know what the deal is with Dylan Moore. If he is, this giant clubhouse guy, then maybe Rivas isn't the guy you call up, right? Cause more of a stink. But if it really is like, hey, we might need another answer, then Rivas could come up and give guys, a blow, right? It's only 50 games. It's a sprint, but it's still a long stretch. Some guys need a break every now and then, especially, as we're getting into some more lefty matchups, right? Okay, Polanco could still DH somehow. I don't know how we're going to make the lineup work, but I like Rivas. As far as pitchers, I can't say I'm sure. I'm pretty open to whomever, but maybe it's another like, hey, let's eat innings. Let's get Hancock up and let's start eating some innings again. I don't know. I'm more of this innings eater guy, especially if Bryce Miller isn't going to pan out. If Logan Evans is still going to struggle to solidify our 5th spot, just give me more options of guys that can eat innings that, when we're in these games that are somewhat out of reach, we don't have to use one of a guy and be like, oh, I know, Jake, I think you do the bullpen tracker too now. Like, oh, can't use this guy tomorrow. Well, why? We were down 6 runs. Why the hell did we use him? Let's just use an arm. And I don't want that to be Emerson Hancock's role on this team. I want it to be larger than that. However, we have to think the big picture and sometimes trudge through some games to make it happen. So boring, but those are my picks.
Okay. Camren, any shots in the dark for you?
Not really. It's pretty boring. I agree with Chris. I like the idea of adding an innings eater, especially after losing Thornton as your guy who can just go into any situation and give you multiple innings. Casey Lawrence would probably be my top pick at that role. Hancock or Evans, I could see maybe. We'll see where we are then and how Miller's doing as well. I'd also be kind of surprised they didn't add one reliever from here to the end of the season through the waiver wire. We know how many guys get DFA'd or released in this time of the season, so I would think they're looking at that. And obviously, you guys mentioned Stroman, and you mentioned Ryan, or no one mentioned it yet, but Ryan Presley also got let go. Maybe they take a look at him, and I expect more names to go through the waiver wire as we get more into this season. Offensively, I would also be pretty surprised we didn't see Harry Ford make his debut this season sometime. Like Jage laid out, I like seeing the dynamic they can do with catcher because we've seen many times as Garver gets to start at catcher because County's the DH, where Garver has to take an at-bat late in the game against a righty, and you don't want to have that situation. So maybe you get into a spot where Rayleigh, when he comes back healthy, he can take that pinch hit, and then you can just put Ford at catcher, or you could just straight up pinch hit Harry Ford there, and you can do a lot more interesting things right there. So boring answer like many of these, but I also want to touch on Taylor Saucedo. I think that's also obviously a fine pick. The guys really like him out there. I don't expect much from him, but I could see that as well. But as my top picks, I go with the innings eater, I go with Casey Lawrence, and then I go with Harry Ford. I think he's going to get called up.
Right. T, you got any for us?
Yeah, pitching wise, nothing crazy. I agree with a lot of what you guys said. You can see Sauce, you can see Lawrence, you can see kind of depends again what Bryce Miller kind of does. What is he going to be able to do? Is he going to be able to even start at some point and just maybe put him to the bullpen, whatever the case is? But I'm going to go back to something that Gavin had briefly brought up. Samad Taylor. I don't know what it is about the guy. I don't know why I like him so much. He has over a 900 OPS in AAA this year. He's hitting over 380 bags the past 2 years. Like, I don't know what it is. I just think he's a guy that can offer versatility in the sense of like his speed is just dangerous, almost kind of like Jose Caballero vibes, just not like being able to put him everywhere defensively like Jose. But I don't know. Something about him, I don't know how to explain it analytically in that sense, but just something about him, I think he can just offer something that this team might be missing.
Okay. Yeah, I really like Samad Taylor in the sense of I'm just a big fan of him. Had the chance to interview him last week, and he's a really good dude. So obviously rooting for him, and he is playing very well in Tacoma. The only problem I have with him is that if I were to bring him up, he'd be probably more for his speed than anything, and we have Miles Mastroboni already for that kind of slot. So I don't really know how he fits into it. Obviously, I would love to see Samad Taylor on the roster in general, Razor Sharp Legend in general. But, I think if we're going to be just realistic as far as who it's going to be, I mean, it's probably going to be Harry Ford at this point. Like, the issue's pretty forced at this point. Like, he's probably got to make his debut unless he has the worst August you've ever seen. And as far as it's going to be one position player, probably one pitcher, more likely than not. I'll go with Sauce. I'll be boring in this one, and we'll at the end of the day, we've been here for an hour and a half, so we'll wrap it up with the fun question here. So once again, appreciate you guys for being on here and being on here for the amount of time that this ultimately takes. Getting through everyone's answers to the questions ends up taking a little while, so that's why I wanted the last one to be just more of a fun question, one where we can just kind of have fun with it and let out some emotions maybe and whatnot. So what would it mean to you if the Mariners reached the World Series or even won it? So we're just going to go on that. What would it mean to you for them to even just not only play the World Series and have a game at T-Mobile Park, at least two, but then also if they ended up winning it, what would it mean to you? So go ahead, Gavin, and the floor is yours.
Some of you guys might have pretty tight Seattle roots, maybe not. OKC winning the title this year it just means a little bit more if the Mariners go out and win it this year. But for me, it's that kid that was 11 years old that went to game 162 and saw the 116th win, but didn't have, we didn't get to go to any postseason games. And then fast forward 20 years, and we're like, what's going on here? Like we haven't had any postseason at all. For that kid to see this now finally, it's not quite Cubs level, but it's one of those ones where you're like, okay, this team's never been to a World Series, and then they go out and win it. I mean, means everything for me. You know, I was a Barry Bonds fan as a kid. I was a Griffey fan as a kid, but my team was always Seattle, and then I was just a huge Barry Bonds fan. John Lester went to my high school, so I was a little bit of a John Lester fan. But that kid that just saw the 116th win and just, you know, top of the world and then nothing for 20 plus years. That's what that means. That 11-year-old kid finally getting to see what was supposed to happen in 2001. That's what that means for me.
Okay. Jage, go ahead.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the Cubs. Yeah, I mean, you're obviously right. We're not Cubs level. I mean, yeah, you can make the argument, well, we haven't been there. So like, oh yeah, sure. Well, I mean, also you can make the argument like the Guardians haven't won in what, 90 some odd years as well. It might be more than that at this point. I was living in Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series. Ironically, Game 7, I was in Cleveland during the afternoon and then flew out and landed in Chicago that night. So it was a very interesting day, including the drunkest flight I've ever been on by flying out of Chicago at 6 a.m. going to Cleveland. Wild experience. I got back in time to see the Zobrist double, and then I was able to watch it end. And the emotion that poured out in the bar and seeing grown men, women, adults just breaking down in tears of just pure, I mean, for lack of better terms, just release. Like it's over. This pain, this curse you've been dealing with, it's over. We're not there yet, but I think seeing them make the World Series alone would be a huge impact for me emotionally. And realistically, I mean, I think it's very difficult because we spend so much time analyzing the team and we spend so much time living on it game by game that as you get older, I think a lot of the times you stop enjoying it for what it is, of just being a beautiful game. And the reason you fell in love with it, to Gavin's point, was you were an 11-year-old at 116. You know, I was 12, turning 13, or no, I was 12 when it was the 116 game win season. And listen, I've never been to a game in Seattle. I've seen them in Boston. I've seen them in New York. I've seen them in Chicago, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Boston. Never seen them in Seattle. So my only experience watching the Mariners has always been on the road, or being yelled at by some very unkind Canadians. That's a thing, apparently, when I was at game 1 of the wild card series when they played in Toronto in 2022. I honestly don't know how I'll be able to emotionally really compartmentalize it, because I don't think it's going to be possible. We spend so much time. We spend legitimately 50% of our lives, when you think about it, because the season's 6 to 7 months long. You're spending 50% of your lives living day to day, praying that the Mariners are finally going to do this. So for me, it's going to be massive, because it's just, we don't know how to feel, because we haven't even gotten to an ALCS since 2001. So I think that's a big thing for me. And again, being a new dad as well, like getting to share that with my daughter, and her being so young that she won't even understand. But you know, if it's not this year, or as she starts to get older and she's wondering why dad is just a puddle, like being able to see that, I hope influences her to have that same passion in sports, and seeing what that type of fandom can do. It hurts 99% of the time, because there can only be one winner every year. And we just so happen to choose a team that doesn't like to do that. And, you know, I hope she chooses the Mariners, because living in Pittsburgh, the alternative's not better. I can promise you that. So long-winded, I'll be a puddle.
Okay, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah. Everything. Did Cole Young foul? Okay. But to me,
Shout
it's just
out Yinzer, Cole Young. That's right. Another Pittsburgh boy.
That's right.
North Allegheny.
But no, I mean, you know, obviously everyone's kind of hit the nail on the head, but it'd be everything to me. You know, Jage talking about getting on the plane at 6 a.m. and everyone's drunk already. I don't live in Seattle, but man, I would be at the bar at like 8 a.m. Maybe Gavin would meet me up there, and I'd be texting him going, dude, you're already at the bar. I'm like, oh yeah, man, we got game 7s at 7 p.m. I got to get a seat. I got to be ready. Like, I got to be dialed in. There's nothing else, that would matter at that point. And it would just be, to me, it would be the celebration, like with you guys, if we were on a stream, just to enjoy it together is just something that, like, we talked about in that group there, we can all have little differences in places with it, but man, we all want to see the team win. We just all want to experience that. And just to have that elation of being number one is just incredible. And the second part be, no one can ever take it away from you. Like, I still talk about the Seahawks Super Bowl. I can't believe that was 12, 13 years ago now, but it was ours. You cannot ever take that moment away. That happened, and just, it's such a surreal feeling to be champion, because sometimes winning is so much fun because you like look forward to the next one. Like, ooh, now the next moment comes. And it was when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. It's like, wait, that's it. We did it. We won the Super Bowl. Like, all the stress about, oh man, like, can, this player do that? And what happens if Peyton Manning does this? It doesn't matter. It's over. We won. All our conversations about Dan's lineups or bullpen decisions don't mean anything. We are champions. It's happened. It's all over. Like, none of it. We don't have to debate anymore. We just get to celebrate it. We'd probably make our streams kind of boring, honestly, because we'd just be so elated and happy. But it would literally just mean everything. I don't know, and like I said, we're talking about World Series. Winning the wild card. Like, I was sick for a week after that because I was so like on a high from that. And that was a wild card series. So I can't even imagine. And then just, there's nothing better than postseason baseball. Could you imagine, like, this year, first and second, 2 outs, Mariners are down 2-0. And like, if Gino hit a 3-run home run to left field, I mean, could you just imagine how electric it would be, that celebration coming around home? I mean, there is no better feeling, because last thing I'll say, I'm going long-winded here too. Football, you kind of see it coming. You see the drive, right? Unless there's like a pick six or something, you can kind of see everything happening a little bit. Okay, they're at the 10-yard line. There's a good bet they're probably going to score here. Baseball, it can sometimes come out of nowhere. You could be down 4-0, nothing's going right. You load them up. With 2 outs, you got a shot. Gavin, the game we were at when Dom hit that home run, they were down 4-0 with 2 outs. It didn't end well for us, but they came back from that. There's no time limit. There's nothing. So it would just be amazing and so special.
Yep, I agree. That's the best part about baseball, is that it comes down to the last pitch, and you always have to give the hitter his shot to win the game, or make something happen. There is no kneeling the football. There's no waiting out the shot clock. You have to give the other team their shot until the very end. So, Chris, your turn. Go ahead.
Listen, guys, I'm a lifelong loser, right? One thing I'm pretty damn good at, and that's losing. For what it's worth, I'm a Cowboys football fan, right? I was like 4 when they won all their Super Bowls. So like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. But as far as, Mariners fandom, I come from the Northeast, from Northeast PA. So surrounded by Yankees fans, right? They've won it all, seen it all. Surrounded by Phillies fans. They've won it all, seen it all. I live in the South now. I live in South Carolina. Tons of Braves fans. They've won it, right? Recently. So it's like, even another one of my very good friends, Nationals fan, they won it. Like, everybody I'm surrounded by has won it. And like, it almost feels like I'm more prepared. Like, I'm so prepared to win. Like, I just want it, you want it so bad, of that elation, that happiness, that joy. And it's like, I know once I get it, I say this constantly, but we'll see how it changes when we get one. But when you finally win a World Series, like, I don't even care what happens for the next like 5 years. Jerry could tell everybody, I don't care. Like, talk to me 5 years from now, I'll be back. But I do, like, I'm done with the daily grind once we win, right? Like, I am at the top of the world. I'm riding off into the sunset. I was lucky enough to get to go to Seattle. I've been there one time. I went to 3 games. My wife took me out there, and it was awesome. And, we've all been to countless baseball games, but there is nothing like being with your people, right? People you don't know, but they're just Mariners fans, right? Growing up in Northeast PA, I was AAA Phillies. We're right downtown in Scranton. They're the Yankees now. But, I watched all those guys grow up. So you go to the Phillies games and everybody's going crazy. You watch Ryan Howard, you watch Shane Victorino, all these guys come through. So now it's Seattle. It's like, in my head, I have not mentioned this to my wife. So if she listens to this, she'll probably want to kill me. But it's like, I got to figure out how to get to Seattle for some, right? And then it's do I try to go for the wild card? No, I have to have more confidence in that. You're going to the next step. Like, okay, well, what if we make to the ASCS? Do I go then? Well, no. What if we make to the World Series? I want to go then. I need to go then. So it's just it would be something that I don't know that I would be able to put into words on this podcast. I know I'm trying really damn hard to do that, but I don't think I can. But I think the bigger picture is even, it was mentioned like, hey, we have a stream. Like, no, I want us all there. I want us there together, right? I want to be with the people of Seattle, even if I don't get to go to the game because somebody price gouged me for $5,000. If I'm at the bar next to this, I'll figure it out. I will be in Seattle at some point in time if we're there. And what it would mean after, I have no idea what I would feel the day after. Like, am I calling off work? Like, is somebody like, yo, you called off work because your team won the World Series? Like, yeah, I did. Hey, I don't know what else to do. You could be the biggest football fan in the world. It does not take up as much time as baseball does, right? 7 months, 162 games a year. I know a couple of us are on the East Coast too. Like, I fall asleep through half of the games. You're like, man, it's 12. Like, I got to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. You're like, man, I need to go to bed. Oh shit, Cal hit another home run. That sucks. I missed it. But like, it's a stretch. We're not playing. We got 2 guys on, 1 out, and who's coming up? Julio. Anyway, Julio's going to hit the home run here, make my prophecy come through, and he's going to carry us all the way to the World Series. Let's go win it. I'm out of here. No, I'm not leaving, but
I'm not leaving. All right. So Camren and T are next, which I think will be interesting because obviously you guys, everyone who's talked so far was alive during the 2001 series or during that time. So it looks like Julio hit into a double play is my assumption of what just happened. So Camren, go ahead and with your answer. They're going to review it.
Oh yeah, sorry, they're reviewing. So, yes, I will answer. Sorry. Yeah, the only memory of really Mariners being, oh, he's safe. What is the umpire calling? Wow. Yeah. So about my answer, when I was thinking about how to answer your question when I was reading it, was all about memories and that we will never forget where we were when they make it, when they win it. We'll never forget who we were with and everyone we were with. And the only thing I can really think of obviously is 2022 when we clinched. I can remember exactly where I was. I was in my freshman dorm, Washington State, 3 years ago. I was watching the game on my computer. I was with 2 of my roommates, and then I just remember Cal hitting the shot, and then we were all standing up and jumping around, and that was super cool. And then like a week later, for the playoff pre-sale, I remember waking up early to buy a ticket for ALDS Game 3, hoping they'd win the wild card series, and they did. So we got that, which was awesome. And then I jumped on a 6 a.m. We jumped on a 6 a.m. bus because we were college students. We're not buying plane tickets. I took one of my roommates with me, so we got on a 6 a.m. bus that morning to go to Seattle. And it took like 8-9 hours because we had to make a bunch of stops. Usually from Pullman, it's only like 5.5, 6 hours. But it was 9 hours. And the friend I took, he wasn't really that much of a baseball fan, but I took him. I made him buy a Cal Raleigh jersey for himself. And it was a great experience and a great time. And that's sort of like the only memory really of actual Mariners success I can think of in my lifetime, obviously. In the last 2 years, like we've had good wins, obviously, in the regular season here and there, but there's nothing memorable that I can stand out like 2022. So to wrap up, I just know I'll remember everything. Oh my gosh, that's fair. Okay. Yeah, I'll remember everything where I am. It'll be the best memory ever. And like Chris was saying, I could care less. Jerry could come out and say, hey, the goal for this season is we're going to win 60 games and we're going to shed payroll and trade half the roster. I'll be like, yeah, man, you do you. Good job, John Stan. You got us World Series. Like, I could live with that for a year. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And Josh Naylor just brought us within 1. So awesome. And now Gino's up and maybe he can give us the lead. So we'll see. T, if you want to finish out this question, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I'll keep it short and sweet. Growing up in Jersey, being surrounded by a bunch of arrogant New York sports fans, and constantly being surrounded by like, why are you a Mariners fan? Why are you this? Why are you that? Like, they suck, the whole thing. For me, it's just different. My dad watching the Seattle Mariners for however long he's been, like, just a lot of just bad seasons and a lot of time. Like just like it'd just be great. I remember like in that game where they came back against the Blue Jays being down, what was it, 9-1, whatever it was, like just not moving. So once they started getting some hits, once they started grooving, I was just like not moving from my seat. Everybody I was watching with had already left, like this game's over, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't know, it's just crazy feeling. It would just be something crazy, just be able to watch and celebrate and do everything with everybody, obviously in the Mariners space. Again, kind of what Chris said, going up to Seattle, like just being surrounded by going to all the games everywhere where you're not surrounded by Mariners fans, New York, like the whole thing, just being surrounded by people like, what, why are you even here kind of thing. Like it would just be super cool to be like celebrating and surrounded by people that, you know, kind of feel that same passion and that same energy to just waiting so long for it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like it's weird because obviously, you know, I said this before. I'm a newer fan within the last few years, and so I don't have this lifelong turmoil and trauma, frankly, of watching the Mariners. It's only been a problem for the last few years. But I, you know, growing up being like a Giants fan and watching them win the World Series, right? And seeing what that means to people like my dad and some other family members who were Giants fans. Like I was, you know, I wasn't as full bore as I am into it now, right? With the Mariners. Wasn't making content at the time. I'm an early teenager when this is occurring. So, you know, I didn't get to appreciate it the same way that, you know, I feel like I would appreciate this because I chose the Mariners. Like that's the difference. Is like I chose to cover this team. I chose to put all of, you know, a lot of time into what's going on with the team. I'm sure my wife would say that, like a lot of time into the team and what's going on with them and into like the content creation stuff. But at the same time, like I think the biggest thing for me is, although I'd be super stoked, I think I'd be most happy for all the people that I've met so far in this space and so far like either on this screen or people that I've collabed with and just the people I've been able to talk to who have been those lifelong Mariner fans, and to kind of feel did he not get it? No? Okay. So I guess Gino did not tie the game, but they're within one with in the 5th inning. So yeah, I guess just to wrap it up, because we are going almost 2 hours now. Would feel great for everyone involved and everyone who's been watching for their whole lives and been through it their whole lives. I know what it would mean to you guys, so would be really happy with that. But yeah, that's where we're going to end this. I was hoping for at max 1.5 hours, and I clearly was wrong about that. I need to just maybe have less prompts next time. But I appreciate everyone for sticking around for almost 2 hours now to answer these questions and be a part of this. I know it's not easy. And you're taking time out of your day to be a part of this, and willingly, which is, I just appreciate that. So obviously everyone's links are going to be in the description down below. Go check out everyone: Gavin from UpWest, Jage on the Jage page, and Words from the Wharf, Jay's Trident podcast, Jay's Trident podcast. Yeah, I said that right. Chris Krawczyk, check out Coach's Son podcast for a more general MLB podcast. Camren at Mariners Trident on Twitter, and EastCoastM makes content as well. Go check out all their stuff in the link below. Hopefully everyone who maybe listened to the whole 2 hours, probably not, but if you did, thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed it and gained some insight a little bit about what's going on with the Mariners. It's really cool to do these things here and there. But yeah, I think we're going to end it here because I'm going to spare everyone the rest of their time. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. I can't end it. I don't want to play the outro. Bye.